Alright guys, Mount Vernon Kid here, coming back to you again with the opinion spot. One more day for the opinion spot week to end. And today for Friday, I thought once again I'll stay out of big the big brands Marvel and DC and go with another great show that I really loved. And you got to remember that these characters were comic characters first, and that's none other than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 2003 series. Yes, indeed. If you thought I was not going to talk about this, you're out of your mind. This show was excellent. Now you got to remember, granted, guys, I grew up with the originals, and even I could tell, even though the original was fun and a lot of campiness and stuff like this, but this show really went full stream and turned it around. It first aired February 8th, 2003, and it ended November 21st, 2009. So it had a good run. The series marked a revival for the franchise as a Saturday morning cartoon on the Fox Box programming. Basically, later became Kids for Kids TV. Was produced by Ford Kids Entertainment and Mirage Studios, which each owned half of the rights of the show. And the animation was done by Dongwoo Animations. It would later go over to the CW Kids in its final seasons, and because of the Ford Kids contract with Fox had ended. And I'll get into later on what the future holds for the Fab Foursome. Like I said, this version of the series, the four turtles had they were completely different from their '87 counterparts. It really followed more of the Mirage comic versions than anything, most definitely. All the characters were more complex individuals. The turtles had a real strong family bond that was really good. The tone was somewhat more serious, and the action was still good. I really enjoyed that, and it didn't really, and the show really didn't have a lot of that slapstick comedy and the heavy puns from its predecessor from the 80s, the one that I grew up watching. And as also the series really covered a whole scope of the adventures, just like in the Mirage comics. From taking them from the sewers to outer space to other dimensions to the future. It was all around great stuff. I really enjoyed this series. Of course, you still had all what we all loved about the Turtles, from Leonardo, showcasing him being the great leader, the most balanced out of all four of them. Concerned mostly with his training and meditation, and living up to that notion of being the best that he is. Being a very good student of the game. Raphael, pretty much, they kind of classified Raphael as the hothead of the group. He was always he often let his anger get the best of him, and struggle with kind of coping, with tough issues, rather than trying to think his way out. Donatello, of course, was the intelligent. They still kept that notion of what Donatello was, and that was perfect. And then Mikey was the goofy but lovable of the group. He was pretty much us, as the geek of the group, but still can throw down just like the best of it with his brothers. Master Splinter came off pretty much the lovable sensei that we all know and love. Of course they also kept April. She was totally different. Like I said, she was their closest human ally, but she had more of that big sister mentality to the Turtles. Like, she really they really had her. The Turtles and her met when she was working under Baxter Stockman as his technical assistant, and that was really good. And of course, the other main ally was Casey Jones of course, and we all know who Casey was. With the enemies, you know, they really went from not only the Shredder, they went from Baxter Stockman, they went from Hung, the Triceradons, you know, the Federation, Agent Bishop. They had a lot of enemies in this, not just the Purple Dragons, not just the Foot Clan. And in terms of Shredder, it was revealed that he was not who he said he was. You know, Oroku Saki wasn't. He was actually an alien called the alien was named as the Utroms, if I remember correctly, and it was kind of cool. It was good, but he was still deadly as ever. Shredder came off he came off like, the way I would sum up Shredder in this series is almost like Dr. Doomish. Like, he really came off eerie and menacing, and you know, when he would fight the Turtles, it was no holds barred. Like, it were times where he literally had the Turtles at his mercy, and it was almost to the point Splinter had to come in to save them. They added Osaki Ojimbo in here at one point, and that was really cool. Man, there was just so much great stuff about this series. You know, it lasted over a series. To me, if a series can last over 100 episodes, that's good. This series ran for 156 episodes, and you know, in terms of the breakdown of the series, you know, you had the different kind of seasons, you know, from the Ninja Tribunal series to the Fast Forward season, the Back to the Sewer season. The Ninja Tribunal season was great. I love that season. They kind of consider that the lost episodes because they didn't show that at first, and that was where that season marked the end of the Turtles' original design and format. And then fast forward, they went to the future, and their redesign and everything looked. Now, I watched Fast Forward, but I didn't really like it. And when they came back to the Sewers, I thought it was okay too. But it was still good because it still was content with what was going on in the beginning of the series. And then, of course, they had the TV movie called in 2009, which marked the end of the 2003 series, where basically the 2003 Turtles met their counterparts, the 87 Turtles, as well as the Turtles from the 80s, from the comics, the more vicious-looking Turtles. And I like Turtles Forever. It's just that I thought they really, really played up the goofiness of the 87 Turtles, which in a bad way, because I remember vividly, guys, that there were episodes in the 87 series where they were taken very seriously. There were episodes that were very serious. It wasn't always about comedy and things like that, but it really kind of got bad. And not only that, you know, it had the Utron Shredder meet the Shredder of the 87 and things like that. It was good, but it just played up that too much. And of course, how Raphael would break the fourth wall, and I thought that was funny. I love that part where Hun was like, he kept looking at like us. It was like, who are you talking to? I thought that was funny. But like I said, the series ran. You had the first season, which had 26 episodes, and the second season another 26. Third season another 26. The fourth season another 26, and then you had the lost episodes, the Ninja Tribunal season, which had 12. Fast Forward had 26, and then Back to the Sewers ended with only a mere 13. And Back to the Sewers was when they were on the CW. But it was a lot of fun, guys. There's not really a favorite episode that I can think of because they were really very, really well done. Like I said, it had a mixture of the Mirage comics mixed with a little bit of the first movie, as well as just that mature tone to it. I mean, like, for example, there was an episode where, remember in the movie, the first movie, where Raphael was thrown through the windows by the foot. Well, instead of Raphael, it was Leonardo, and they had to fight their way out of April's apartment in that series. I remember that vividly, and that was because the Ultron Shredder wanted Leonardo to join the foot, but he refused to. Geez, there were just so many good episodes to this series, guys. I really enjoyed it. I can, besides that, you can definitely say that, this series was a lot better than, this can probably be arguably the best out of the Turtles animated stuff, basically, arguably. Some may say even a guy who, like me, who grew up with the 87 Turtles can even say that, But I mean, they brought in a lot. I mean, they even brought in Leatherhead, the mutated gator. I mean, they brought in so many characters that appeared from the comics. Like, for example, Baxter Stockman was African American. He wasn't Caucasian. Hun looked pretty much the same as his comic counterpart. The Purple Dragons were in there. They were still good. But in terms of like episodes, like I said, the personalities really played a lot in this. Like Leonardo, disciplined, very much disciplined. Mikey was like the geek, like he was into comic books and video games and stuff like that. He kind of took his training kind of seldom at times. It was really fun. It was just fun. I mean, they had the Mousers. They had everything. Casey Jones really was, instead of being in the 1987 series, Casey Jones kind of came off as a crackpot, a psycho. But in this series, he had a purpose, and you kind of got the reason why he does the things he do. I mean, they had a backstory of that. He met the Turtles when they were young. Before, when he was a little boy, and the Turtles were still growing up, and that was really fun. Dang, they had I think like I said, one of my favorite episodes from the first season was the Shredder Strikes, and that was a 2-part episode where Leonardo met Oroku Saki and the Foot Clan, and then Saki wouldn't. Leonardo didn't join, and they had this big battle. I remember Michelangelo even becoming like superheroes called the Turtle Titan. That was really funny, and things like that. Oh man, there was so many episodes that were just, I loved it. Really loved it. I love when they introduced Karai into the series, because Karai was also a part of the comic first, and then they introduced her, and she was badass. She came off so good, so just all around, pretty much. If you look at her comic counterpart and her cartoon counterpart, there was really no much different. The only difference, I would say, her comic counterpart was a little bit colder. She was a little bit colder than her cartoon counterpart. It was just a fantastic show, guys. I can't really say any more than what you guys would already know. If you were a Turtle fan, you can understand where I'm coming from. That this was probably arguably the best of their cartoons. I loved it. I get asked this question a lot. Basically, Chris, you grew up in the 80s. You're an 80s kid. Can you say the 2003 series is better than the one from the 80s? And arguably, I gotta admit, yes, it was. It was. Even though I still can watch the 80s one to this day, and I love it. I will not forget that series, but I will have to say, yeah, it is. So, got a point. So, basically, guys, in retrospect from that, what does the future hold for the Turtles? Are they still going to make a comeback on the small screen? Yes, indeed, they are. Nickelodeon now owns the rights to anything future Turtles now, and they have another series coming out sometime this year. I think it's going to be CGI, and I can't really judge it from just the teaser trailer I saw. I'd really have to sit down and watch it more to see where it goes, and I'll give my take on it from there. But by far, this is probably the best, the 2003 version series of it. I will not even acknowledge what's coming to them for the big screen, so don't bother asking me that. Because if I do, he's gonna come out, Hurricane Chris gonna come out. But anyway, other than that, this series was great. I loved it. I'm glad it lasted for over 150 episodes. It had a very good run, and you don't get that all the time. You don't get that nowadays with animated stuff that lasts over 100 episodes. You really don't, and it's really good to see that this show did last. And 4Kids Entertainment and Mirage Studios paid so much homage and respect to this series with love and respect, as I just said. So I really enjoyed this series, guys. But other than that, I ran on for a good while about it. You guys tell me what you thought about this series as a whole, and are you pretty much agreeing with me as well? Arguably the best turtle cartoon ever. And I can say that with a straight face, even as I am a child of the 80s. But other than that, this is Mount Vernon Kid. Thank you for listening on the Opinion Spot, and you guys take care. And tomorrow I will deliver the last of some of the great comic related cartoons in the past for Opinion Spot Week. But other than that, you take care. Oh yeah, one more thing. I might have a special guest. I'll have a special guest help me with that series. But other than that, you guys take care.